So I'm going to call this video my Blades of Grass video. And I've nicknamed these rifles. This 1903 Springfield, which is a faithful reproduction of a 1903 USMC, United States Marine Corps, World War II era sniper rifle. And my Model 70 Winchester, which is a faithful reproduction of a World War II era Model 70 Winchester sniper rifle. I've nicknamed them my Blades of Grass. And the background on the Blades of Grass quote, and it's a shame, it's a misquote, or it's a false quote. It's attributed to Admiral Yamamoto, the architect of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the leader of the Japanese Navy in the early years of World War II. And there's this quote where he says it would be foolish to invade the mainland of the United States because an invading army would find a rifle behind every blade of grass. Well, he never said that. There's no evidence in his personal papers. There's no contemporary quote. There's no, and moreover, there's no reason for him to ever said that. The Japanese plan never was to invade a large-scale invasion of the mainland of the United States. So he never said it. But that doesn't mean that there's not truth within it. It's kind of a cool quote. It's a shame that somewhere someone decided they would falsely attribute it to Admiral Yamamoto, and it kind of undermines the truth within the quote, in that, you know, we have a Second Amendment, we have an armed citizenry, and an invading army would certainly encounter an insurgency so violent and so aggressive that it would seem as though there was a rifle hidden behind every blade of grass. And years back, when I worked for the SERE School, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape, this was when I was a DoD, Department of Defense civilian, working for them. I was teaching a class. I forget what class it was, but I used a picture called The Weeping Frenchman, and it's a kind of an infamous picture. It's a picture of a French gentleman in 1940, and he's crying. He's obviously distraught. And what is happening, the context to the photograph, is he's watching a defeated French army march through the streets of Marseille on their way to embark on ships and sail off into exile. He's watching the defeat of his nation, the fall of his country to Nazi Germany. And he's crying. And I made the comment to the class, so well, how would we feel if there was an occupying army marching down Pennsylvania Avenue? And without missing a beat, one of the guys in the class, Shannon Murphy, a SEAL, shouts out, "We would not let them." And that wasn't a hollow shirt bravado. I mean, he meant it. We wouldn't let them. And that's pretty cool. That's my kind of American, you know, that attitude of we wouldn't let them. So, anyways, well, let's talk a little bit about this specific rifle, this 1903 Springfield. The story behind it, really is kind of a saga getting this thing built. I had it in my head that I wanted one of these. I always thought these were cool looking rifles. I always thought this was the archetypal Marine Corps sniper rifle of World War II. They first started using them in the Solomon Islands in the late 1942. They used them throughout World War II, throughout the Pacific Campaign, again in Korea, and some of them were used in Vietnam, and some of them even found their way into the Navy. They issued a few of these and put them aboard minesweepers for the gunner's mates. You know, if they were going to try to detonate mines by gunfire, they would use these rifles. And that became kind of a military urban legend. The old barn find. People are looking for an old motorcycle or an old truck. The legendary barn find that's been set in the corner of the barn, relatively new. Well, there was kind of an urban legend of these sniper rifles, in a cardboard box someplace in the back of a small arms locker of some old minesweeper or some tender someplace, floating around out there that a piece of gold that some ship didn't know that they had. But anyways, so I wanted one of these built, and this is Lieutenant Colonel William Brophy's book, The Springfield Armory, and this is kind of everything you ever wanted to know about 1903 Springfields. And I found a guy named Roland Beaver. And if you Google Roland Beaver and old Corps weaponry, you'll find all kinds of good things written about him. He was a former Marine armor. He was an older gentleman. He'd been an armor in the Marine Corps when some of these were still in service, in the inventory, I would more accurately say. And I said, hey, I want one of those. Can you build me something like that? And he was pretty excited about the project, and he wanted to do it. And I got a base rifle for him. I bought an old 1903 Springfield base rifle, 1.5 million serial number. This was built, I think, like in 1936. And he started on the project. And unfortunately, he was an older gentleman, and he grew ill, and he passed away. Was not able to finish the project. His family returned the rifle to me and all the work that was done on it. Returned my deposit, didn't charge me for any work done. I thought that was very cool of them. But now I've got this rifle, and I'm looking for somebody else to build it for me. And Mike Lau of Texas Brigade Armory had built a rifle for me a few years before. Outstanding master gunsmith. And so I contacted Mike Lau and said, hey, I got a project for you. Can you build this rifle for me? And he agreed to it. And this is the finished product. And this is the product of a master gunsmith. Everything has been refurbished. It's brought to as new condition. It's been Parkerized. If it was not as new condition, it was replaced. Brand new barrel, where needed, brand new furnishings. The barrel is a match grade barrel, 8-power Unertal scope on it, external micrometer adjustable sights. Just a beautiful, perfect piece of history. Back in the 1940s, well, in 1940, there was a bit of a competition between these rifles, the Winchester Model 70 and the 1903 Springfield. The Marine Corps was looking for a replacement, or looking for a sniper rifle. The winds of war was blowing. They realized that it would not be long and they would be in another war. And so they were looking for a sniper rifle. And I think you could argue that the Model 70, being a purpose-built sniper rifle, is probably the better sniper rifle. The Marine Corps did go with the 1903 Springfield. And, I think the Model 70 is better, but, they already had thousands of these in the inventory. They had repair parts in their supply system for these. Their armors were familiar with these, and it was probably a case of good enough beats better, and so the Marine Corps went with these. And they kept them in their inventory until the early 1970s, when they were finally deleted from the inventory. This is not a purpose-built sniper rifle. As comparison to this Model 70 Winchester, this is a service rifle that has been pressed into use as a sniper rifle. Now, when Springfield Armory would build these service rifles, whenever you mass produce something, whenever you assembly line build something, there's always an acceptable level of tolerance. There's perfect, and then there's some bandwidth either side of perfect. And, being good enough doesn't mean that it's not good. but there's some bandwidth either side of perfect. And they would inspect every rifle, and they would run a air gauge down the barrel of the rifle to inspect the uniformity and precision of the rifling. They would test fire the rifle at 200 yards. They would visually inspect the rifle, and the rifles that were as near perfect, the picks of the litter, so to speak, they would stamp what's known as a star gauge, or stamp a star on the muzzle of the rifle. And these rifles were known as star-gauged rifles. Nothing different had been done in the manufacture of them. It just happened that these happened to be, or it just turned out that these happened to be the picks of the litter that rolled off the assembly line. And those star-gauged rifles would be selected for the national match rifle team, for service rifle competition. And these were the rifles that the Marine Corps armors would build into these sniper rifles. So it wasn't a purpose-built sniper rifle, but it was a rifle, a service rifle, pressed into use as a sniper rifle. Pretty cool. Capable of very great accuracy. This rifle, this Model 70, capable of very great accuracy, but it is, it's a 100-year-old technology. Unertel and J.W. Fecker started building these externally micrometer adjustable scopes back in the late 1920s. So this is nearly a 100-year-old technology. So, you're going to have to, recalibrate your expectations if you're used to shooting a modern Leupold or a Nightforce scope. You're not going to have the same level of clarity, the same level of brightness. And there's a lot more, hey, you just got to do it yourself with this scope, that it's not going to do the things for you that a modern scope's going to do for you. But that doesn't mean that you can't hit things with it. So there it is. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's my rifle. Mike Lau just finished it up for me. It's in the collection. And I'll talk to you later. Cool.